Florida's higher education system continued its conservative direction with the naming of a new interim college president this week. Take a look.
Eric Hall, Secretary of the Department of Juvenile Justice, was named interim president at Pasco Hernando State College. It may become a permanent role at the college's next trustees meeting. Former Pasco Hernando State College president Jesse Peisers resigned after a controversial report on the school's enrollment and retention was made public. Hall joined several Republican leaders with ties to Governor Ron DeSantis, taking over leadership at universities across Florida. Those include former Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez at Florida International University, former State Board of Education chairperson Marva Johnson at Florida A&M, and former Florida House Speaker Richard Corcoran at New College.
Craig, how do you see this latest announcement?
Political leadership at colleges is nothing new. Going back to George Washington and Jefferson and Madison, Garfield, Woodrow Wilson, I could probably think of some others. The issue here is whether there is a conservative takeover. I honestly don't know the answer to that because a couple of reasons. First off, a conservative is one who should be careful with money. Was Ben Sasse careful with money at the University of Florida in the decisions that he made? By general definition, a conservative is one who limits change and preserves existing institutions that are working well. Florida colleges and universities do a lot of things right, and yet the individuals we're talking about, at least going back to New College and some other things, have moved toward making some striking reforms, not preserving the status quo. Well, that's a general definition. What about political definitions? But even there, what does conservatism mean? In Reagan's era of conservatism versus today, there are steep differences in economic and trade policy, certainly with respect to immigration policy, certainly with respect to foreign policy, definitely as it relates to addressing aggression from Moscow. So what do you mean by a conservative takeover? And even to this day, you have those who identify as conservatives in House leadership and the governor taking very different views of what conservatism is, to the point the governor is calling Republican leadership in the House liberal, and you have leadership in the House saying that the governor is misspending or overspending. So I don't know that we can say what a conservative takeover ultimately is. I think that'll be left to future historians, and we may be in a little bit of a period of flux here.
How does this impact the value of the college education from a particular school? Is this something that parents are paying close enough attention to, the politics, how this may or may not make their child's diploma from that school less or more valuable?
Well, they certainly should be. And you look at Florida's standing in national rankings, which are outstanding collectively among the universities. We've seen some slippage, for example, slight slippage, but backsliding nonetheless. Is that just a correlation, or is there causation to some of the prior decisions that have been made, including some of the spending decisions under prior management at the University of Florida? That's something we have to flesh out, but that's something that you have to very, very carefully watch as a parent and as a student.
Stanley?
I think that there's a strategy in place here, and I truly believe that they want to combine schools. And I think also,
what do you mean by that?
What I mean by combined schools is look what the rumors are that you hear about New College. Look, and in other words, I think they want to combine schools. Like, to give you an example, like in Texas, you used to have West Texas, now it's a part of Texas A&M. I think that that's really is what's going on.
And for the viewer at home who may not be familiar, there's talk of New College combining with the University of South Florida St. Pete campus.
Yeah. At the same time, I don't really get hooked up on conservative and liberal. The real big issue is that there's a lot of transferable skills. And when you look at the president of a university or a college, one of their biggest jobs is fundraising. And when you take the graduates of those schools who are no longer going to donate money, that is a problem. And I think that you saw that at New College. And I think that you're going to see this at the other colleges. And the other thing that I would say is that these moves, are they going to bring us closer towards equity? And specifically, when you look at Florida A&M, state school, you compare that to Florida State and the same, there is nowhere close to being equity. And it's a real issue.
And the other side of the coin is the person who says, well, this is more of a correction, that perhaps there's a group of people who feel that perhaps the universities went too far to one side, and so this brings them more to the center. Jake, would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I think that when we talk about universities taking a conservative direction, if you look at by any statistic measure, all of the teachers, they donate to Democrats. They are registered Democrat. Professors up and down, it doesn't even matter what state you're in. It is like you're talking in the 90 percentile of liberal professors and leadership in these in these different departments in these colleges. So having a conservative or Republican registered president of a university, I don't think just gets rid of that. And I think, like you said, it's a bit more of a correction. And I wanted to make a point when you said about the value of the degree possibly going down. And I'm thinking to myself, well, University of Florida just won the basketball championship. That just gave more value to the degree of the University of Florida than anything else could possibly have. The same thing happened when they won the football championship years ago with Tim Tebow. Getting a conservative president in there is not going to make the value of the degree to go down. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Jennifer, in the short time that we have left.
Real quick, I'm going to go back to what Craig mentioned about Ben Sass and UF, and that might have had a bigger impact on UF than a basketball game or championship. And you can look at FIU, I believe, where they had a new person take over, and within a couple of months, the faculty is, filing grievances and having massive issues. You can look at New College and look at all of the professors that left. It isn't, in my opinion, having a good effect on our universities.